Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're tuning from. It is a wonderful session here today, again on the Portfolio's Gem. And today is another AMA here, and we have Richard, who's actually going to be representing the Saito community. Now, you all might be hearing the name, and what might come to your head is the Japanese or the Japanese name. It actually sounds Japanese, but we have Richard here to actually give us the origin. But then Saito is actually an open network that runs cryptocurrency applications directly in browsers without the need for any plugins or any private APIs or any non-open infrastructure, and it operates without an owner while funding the nodes that provides user-facing infrastructure for its own network and other public blockchains. But then it also has some other cool features like its unique consensus mechanisms and some scalabilities, and it has a lot of notable applications like the Red Square, the Saito Arcade, the Saito Chats, and the Saito Video Calls. All of these we're going to find answers to on the course of our AMA today. We have about 60 minutes or so to get to know about Saito decisions on investing. But as I always say, always do your own research. But without further ado, I want to give the mic over to Richard. Richard, welcome on board. I hope you had a wonderful day so far.
Yeah, it's been great. It's actually Yuanxiaojie or Lantern Festival in the Chinese calendar, so it's a little celebration for that. Hello. Sometimes you drop out, so if I'm quiet for a second, I'm just waiting for your audio to come back.
Sorry.
That's all right.
But I'll just say my Wi-Fi connection is just being blanted.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So if you could give us a quick overview about yourself or a quick introduction about yourself, where you're from, when you got into crypto. I know you mentioned that you are currently living in Australia, west side of Australia. So if you could give us a quick introduction of when you got into crypto and the likes.
Yep. So actually, for this audience, I was actually born in Africa. Grew up mostly in Australia and spent a large part of the last few years in China. I actually got into crypto in Beijing in about 2013, 2014. And for me, I was working early career in tech, and I was a really big open source guy. I loved the idea that open software was free and available to everybody, and that something like Linux could give opportunities to people. It wasn't a walled garden. You didn't have to have $1 million to buy servers to set up a business or start a website or whatever. And then I heard about Bitcoin, and I thought that's so cool, like open source network that we can do stuff with. So I kind of got into it from that scene early on in Beijing. And getting into it early, it was very different to now. Like, people really didn't know if it would be around in 2 years or if it would keep working. It was very different, and the kind of idea was just to tell everybody you knew. You're supposed to give away Bitcoin a lot to people just to show them how it worked, and made a lot of friends in the space. But then, as Bitcoin started to grow, people started to use it. People started to think about it as something they might want to do stuff with daily. It quickly became clear that Bitcoin just didn't scale. You couldn't do banking, let alone anything else, on this open network at 7 or 8 transactions per second. It just wasn't going to be what everyone hoped. And the Bitcoin community kind of started fighting about how to solve this problem. And then Ethereum came along and showed a different way. And really crypto started happening. And through that path, David, my co-founder, and I were kind of, it was him that brought these ideas to me. First, he was saying, look, all these solutions, they're just fixing the symptoms. They're not curing the disease. The disease is that blockchains don't pay the right people. Blockchains only pay for security. Proof of work and proof of stake only pay miners and stakers. But everybody else is doing a lot of hard work, moving the transactions around. And if you want to move a lot of transactions around, you really need to pay for it if you want it to be reliable. And that's the heart of Saito, is we said about building something that achieves that. And the cool thing about Saito is when I first saw Bitcoin and blockchain, if you think about the first time you got a phone, you didn't think, wow, Like an iPhone, I can use the banking app. I can do finance. You thought, oh, cool, games, and I can do social stuff with my friends, and I can take videos. And I think crypto is still at that point where we're just using it for the banking app. Right? And there's so much more you can do with a really competent network like Saito, where you've got lots of bandwidth, big transactions, so you can send large messages, and you can develop any kind of software you want to. So Saito, that's really what we're about. That's a very quick introduction to it, is fix the problems at the economic level in blockchain, get it paying for what you need, paying for scale. And you can suddenly do a lot more than just finance and DeFi. You can do everything on a blockchain. And that creates thousands of business models and breaks apart a lot of, sort of monopolies and vested interests in the internet space. So lots to talk about. I'm happy to tackle whatever kind of angle people have, if they want to know more about how Saito actually does that and how it works, or if they're interested in what we've built, or they're interested in roadmap and where we're going. Happy to answer any kind of question about the project.
It's really, really wonderful, yeah. And I'll give you that because there was one of that a lot of persons out there see crypto as a banking system or as a banking app, and I think I actually agree with you because when you made mention of it, I kind of like paused and give it a thought about it, and I saw myself actually doing the same thing because I sometimes use it as just as a savings. Let me just funds that as for savings, and nobody actually sees this as something, as a blog that you make for transactions and stuff like that. And I could really relate to what you're trying to build, and it's really, really wonderful with this. Now I know that you're actually trying not to mimic every other blockchain and that's out there like Bitcoin and the likes. But let's say, for example, that you are being approached tomorrow to give out Saito whatever you've built. Let's say you from where you are now to where you want Saito to be, and then you get approached in the future to sell off the code base of Saito to be used on Bitcoin, for example. What's your take on that aspect?
Interesting question. So, A, we can't really sell it because it's open and it's out there. And then B, we've had lots of discussions actually with the Ethereum Foundation and with some serious Bitcoiners about some Saito ideas. Like Bitcoin, the ledger keeps growing and growing and growing. The proof of work chain just keeps getting bigger. And that's a real problem for Bitcoin. We have solutions for that at Saito, where we have, instead of a long blockchain, it's actually a loop. And only the things that can pay to stay on can stay on. So money transactions can stay on, but if you just send a message, unless you pay for it, it will eventually just fall off the chain. This is actually great, because what it means is you've got a situation where space on chain is rented. And that sounds weird because people say, oh, magic blockchain is permanent, but it's not. At some point, if someone's holding that whole long blockchain, they're going to give up if they're not being paid. So the only way you can have a permanent data record is if you keep up a maintenance fee. Now, that could be a small fee, but you need to keep up a fee. That's what Saito does, and that's actually totally applicable to Bitcoin. You could easily implement that onto the end of Bitcoin, and frankly, we'd be super happy if they did. It would make Bitcoin a lot better. It wouldn't solve Bitcoin's fundamental problem that it only pays for mining. And so the people who store data, the people who send the transactions around, they don't get paid. So those are all volunteers, and that's why Bitcoin has to be so slow, because they've chosen to just make it a volunteer network. I respect the choices and the idea of keeping it pure that way, but it just means that Bitcoin's never a high capacity network. So we'd love it if we got more attention from other big chains, and we'd also love it if they started using some of our ideas. For Ethereum to be more like Saito, it would have to stop being proof of stake and pick up routing work as the consensus mechanism. And that would be a big change, but it's something we would celebrate. We think it would make everything better.
That's nice. I like the concept you're coming with, and I like the vision you actually see for Saito and focusing on it. That's really, really wonderful.
Yeah.
So one question I actually wanted to ask, permit me to ask this question. It might
Sure.
sound like I do not know what I'm talking about, or like I'm a novice, but I am actually a noob. Actually been in crypto for about 2 years now, and I know there are a couple of persons in the community who are actually noobs who know nothing about proof of stake or proof of work or not.
Yeah, sure.
So correct me if maybe my question might sound off, but then I was going through the webpage and I could see that Saito is able to employ a distinctive consensus mechanism that incentivizes nodes to route traffic for the network for ensuring an efficient transaction processing and network security. Now, my question basically is, where does Saito actually reroute this traffic to enable it to handle these high transaction volumes? Because Saito's architecture allows for efficient scaling without compromising performances. So where exactly does Saito actually reroute this transaction or this traffic to disable any form of traffic being on the blockchain itself?
So I think I understand your question, which is like, how do we decide where transactions go around in the network?
Exactly.
Or is it? Yeah, okay. So basically, any blockchain is made up of nodes that communicate with each other. And there's the question, like, if I am using a wallet in Bitcoin and I send a transaction to a node, like, why will it share it? Right? And in Bitcoin, the reason that that node will share it to other nodes and get that information to the blockchain is because people volunteering, and so they're good people, and we hope they do that. But there's actually no reason. They're not forced to do that in Bitcoin. We just assume that they will. And there's cases where people don't because it's more profitable to hoard them. In Saito, what happens is routing nodes get paid, but their chance of getting paid increases with the amount of value of transactions they helped get into blocks. And it's a bit more complicated than that. It also depends on how much of a use they were. So if they're right close to the user, they'll get paid more. So if you do the important job of getting a transaction sent to you from a user's wallet and getting it into the network, that's the most profitable thing you can do. The reason it's profitable is algorithms to do with measuring the value of the transaction from its fee and looking at the path it takes into the block eventually. So the reason people share those transactions and send them on into the network is that's what they're doing. It's like Bitcoin miners. That's how they make their money. The other thing is, if you think about it this way, when you have Bitcoin, people end up building giant mining farms in the desert or near excess sources of heat, etc. And all they do is they burn that energy. If routing is the profitable thing, imagine if instead of building farms to burn energy out in the middle of the desert, people had to build good hardware to get your transactions to make your internet better. That's how you get paid in Saito. And I think that helps you see why it scales, because the profitable thing to do isn't sucking money out into burning energy over on the side. It's building better hardware to get more user transactions into blocks. And that's how Saito scales. And that's also how we determine where the transactions go. People want to share them with the other nodes that are most likely to get them into blocks. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. It does actually perfectly answer the question. And I actually appreciate people shedding more light on that for those of us who are noobs into the crypto space.
Oh, look, it's not a new question because Saito consensus knowledge is pretty elite blockchain knowledge right now. So you're way ahead of the pack.
Thank you very much. I am humbled. All right. One question I actually, before I push into legality, is on. Should I say it's still part of legal, part of the legal question? But basically, there are a couple of persons who are. Saito is actually open source, so which allows developers to be able to build the apps with ease because it
Mm-hmm.
actually supports multiple programming languages. Now, when developers actually build projects using your blockchain based on it's actually open source, are there any percentages that come with to Saito for each individuals who build using Saito? For example, if I build my project and I have a staking platform on my project for using Saito's blockchain. For users who are going to be staking their token or actually going to be mining the token from using Saito, are there any percentages that comes from each of these individual projects that are actually using your blockchain to build their?
Yes, I mean, Saturday's so different. I might need to break the question apart and then answer, I think, what you're getting at, which is what are the revenue sources for people who are developing, deploying, building on Saito? Is that correct?
Excellent.
Yeah. Okay, good. So I'm glad I got that. So basically, the way to look at Saito is that, like I was saying just before, the way you earn money is by contributing, getting transactions into blocks. And the best thing you can do to make sure you're doing that is to be providing the software that makes people want to send transactions in the first place. So if you're a developer and you create an NFT marketplace or a video call app like online Snapchat or whatever, or something completely new that thousands of people use, then when they're using your app, they're giving you their transactions first, right? And that's how you make money, because you're then sharing those into the network and you have a great chance of getting rewarded for those transactions making it into blocks. So the revenue model is very, very simple. Anyone who can do anything useful for users has a chance of getting the rewards. And the more they do, the bigger that chance gets. And that's like a regular chance, right? It's the same as Bitcoin mining. That happens again and again and again. So basically, you can think about your revenue grows with the amount of useful stuff you do for users, where they're actually using it. So if you create a node and you hook it up to the network and it doesn't help anyone, it doesn't make the network any better, it's not running any apps, and it's not connecting other nodes in a useful way, then you won't be profitable. But that's how we want it, right? We don't want people to be able to come and just turn on a machine and get paid for it if they do nothing. On the flip side, if you're a developer of a profitable app, you can start earning Saito like right away without needing to, usually if you're an app developer, you have to put your app in the Play Store and the Apple Store, and you have to pay 30% of all your revenue, and you have to get licensed and blah, blah, blah. If you deploy openly on chain, you can basically launch an app that starts earning you revenue just immediately. You don't have to worry about all of those hurdles that the companies put in between you and your audience and your profitability. There's a couple of cool things about that. One is it's much more accessible. People from anywhere can do this, right? You don't have to be in the kind of place where you've got the money for an iMac and an Apple license and blah, 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 just to launch your app, right? You don't have to be in the kind of place where it's hard to get, where it's easy to get a credit card. You could be anywhere doing anything. If you've got a cool app, you can launch it. The side is, Apple, etc. So you could probably be profitable with a much smaller audience. So you can build cool software that really connects with certain people. And you got a much better chance of being able to grow an audience that's big enough to make it profitable enough. That's what you do. You don't have to be an all or nothing Google killer to, become a player and to earn some revenue. It's a much different world on chain, and that's what we're excited about bringing to people. Does that answer that?
Yeah, it does. And
Cool.
why I was actually basically asking that is based off on, like I mentioned, I actually had a legal question I wanted to ask,
Mm-hmm.
which was based on the fact that there are a couple of projects that are going to be using the blockchain, and what happens in the future where one of these projects actually have a legal case with the governments, and it's kind of like being traced. It comes back to you. What do you do in that aspect? And so, but your answer kind of like touches a little on it, and it gives a bit of a clarity to how this could be handled either way. But maybe you might have anything more you might want to talk on and touch on it before we push on forward.
I mean, basically for us, it's not like a tornado cash type situation, and I'm really glad that, things have come right there, and, the devs there are no longer facing prison for just writing some software. But basically the way Saito works is we're not running the applications. We're writing the software that creates a network that allows people to communicate. Now, we aren't and can't be responsible for what they communicate. In the same way that a cell phone company isn't responsible for someone using a phone to call someone else and organize to do something illegal, right? You can't go to Tim Cook at Apple and say, use an iPhone to make a call to threaten someone, so you're going to jail. We're separated from things that way. To put a little more nuance on it, Saito runs a node, Saito.io, on the network right now, where you can go and play apps and games, etc. And those are all legal and fine where we are, and with the jurisdictions that we're in, and for what we're doing. In fact, I think that'll be fine everywhere, because there's nothing strange happening there. But the idea with the blockchain is it's not there. It's there to be able to be open and used and not exclude anyone. And so, like any tool, people will be able to misuse it. If people are trying to misuse our projects, like a node I'm running personally or projects running, then we'll be super happy to help work out if what they're doing is wrong, and if it's illegal where we are, we'll talk to the police. That's okay. The idea is not that you deliver the wrong thing. It's that you have an open network that doesn't exclude people, and that means innocent until proven guilty, and you can use the chain if you want to. It's up to law enforcement, if something's going wrong, to do something about it.
Really nice. Amazing. Okay, we'll get a few questions from me before we transition to some community questions. But I wanted to touch on some of the notable applications, which is the most notable one, which is the Red Square. But I wanted to know, based on the fact that Red Square is actually a social media platform where users could post and share content directly with their peers, what's the difference that Red Square have with the Saito chat and the Saito video call? Because all of these could actually be incorporated together, but I'm seeing that they are actually three different versions. So why is that being done that way, or what's the difference that each of these have to altogether?
Yep. Okay. So the apps on Saito.io are cool, and you can come and use them today. And we have people who just do their social stuff on Red Square, but they've also got a deeper reason for existing. And this is, I've talked a bit about Saito consensus and the network and how it works. To have real Web3, that dream I was talking about at the start of these open networks that don't exclude people, you also need peer-to-peer software. You can't have people in the middle who control things, because that's the internet we have now, right? That's Google and Facebook and Ali or whoever controlling the network. So what we're wanting to show is, how do you build peer-to-peer apps without people in the middle? Just use the blockchain to connect people and let them do what they want. And that's not simple, because all of the infrastructure, all of the common development tools that's around the Web 2 model of client-server, right? Even that language sounds a bit old school, right? A client and a server who's got much more power, right? Saito's not like that. So each app is trying to show developers how you can do different things peer-to-peer that traditionally are done with a big, tech company and users to the side. How can we bring users into the middle and make them the focus of what we're doing? And the way you do that is on Saito, a Red Square post is just a transaction with a particular format, and anyone can read that. So you could build a Red Square phone app, right? That's really cool. That's a really great way of sending and receiving the posts on Red Square. Somebody else could build a really cool tablet app, or really cool, could be a totally different kind of app, could be a video call system, but which has these posts in it, or a website. And those can all interoperate because it's just a simple format where you say, this is a social post, here's the title, here's the information, etc. Here's who wrote it. And then anyone can read and write that. So you're breaking up the situation we have now where something like X or Twitter, the software and the hardware and everything is owned by one company and they can make all these decisions, right? And you break that up and you say, well, the software reads and writes to an open network. And so people can use whatever software they like. Think about it like web browsers on the internet. But you can't wall it in, you can't control it. So Saito Chat shows how you do that for a chat style application where you have short, tiny messages and a lot of people in groups sending them back and forth. Chat has encryption and other things, which we don't have on Red Square because Red Square is like posting. So the video call software, where you can connect to someone on the network and then establish an off-chain video call stream, that's demonstrating a slightly different set of solutions to different peer-to-peer problems. So all of the Saito apps interact with each other as much or as little as you like. You can actually turn them off. So if you don't like chat, you can go into your wallet and just turn it off and it goes away. They all interact together to form a web experience or an app experience, but they're also fully independent and they could be re-implemented by anyone. It's an open network. People can build whatever software they like. But if you're building a game and you want chat in it, there's already a visible system of how you do that. You just add chat messages to the standard format and put them in your game. And that could be totally different UI, but you can do that. So, yeah, I think there's sort of two aspects to that. There's the apps interacting with each other. There's the possibility of having different implementations of the same protocol. And the apps are designed to show for developers all of the basic kinds of software development. How do you solve that in a really open peer-to-peer way? Yeah, look.
Sorry, can you hear me?
I can now. Yeah, you're off for a bit.
Sorry,
No worries.
My Wi-Fi actually went off completely. I had to go reroute it or something. I don't know.
Oh, well.
Maybe at the end of today's time, I'll just go check it out and see what happened. Yeah. But I was glad I was able to hear most of it towards to the end before my Wi-Fi kind of went off. But it's really amazing what you talked about, especially with Red Square and the whole social media post of content, and it was really good. You made a reference about X and Facebook, and I wanted to touch on that really quick. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Now, I know this is something related to the Web3. It was created basically related for Web3 and the likes. But what happens in the future, because we've seen Elon actually making progresses or making advances to some Web3 based projects recently. He actually has his own called SpaceX and the likes. And so what happens in the future? The same incidents that happened with WhatsApp and Twitter, or should I say X now?
Mm-hmm. So you've dropped out again?
Sorry, I hope you can hear me.
I can now.
Yeah, okay, sorry. A call kind of came in, sorry. So So what happens? What happens in the future? Not I'm saying it's going to happen, but what happens in the future where Elon or someone else sees the potential that Saito is actually going for? I know I talked about it for Saito, but what happens when you're being approached for these social media applications that you're providing, which is Red Square and Saito Chat and the likes? What happens if you're being approached to make this whole production that you're building, this whole product that you're building, given or sold that focus mainly on the blockchain, removing this out of the concepts from you?
So for us, I mean, at our heart, we're about Saito, the consensus mechanism and the chain, right? So if the engineers at X decided that they wanted to allow Red Square messages to appear in X and X clients to send onto Red Square as well, that would be great. That would be so fantastic. I can't tell you how wonderful that would be. I think it would be great for the project, but also just great for the world, because X would become a way better application, because it would be freed from having to be a centralized entity. So for us, that would be a great outcome. As a project, our objective isn't to build the world's best apps. We're really proud of what we've built, but our objective is to create a platform devs from anywhere can build anything, right, in a decentralized and open way and be profitable doing it. That's the idea. That creates the best user experiences. That creates the best value for users around the world. That's what we want to do, and we're not really kind of worried. In fact, quite the opposite, about people coming and taking over or taking our ideas. The more people share these ideas and the more people talk about them and actually implement them, the better it is for the project, the better it is for the blockchain. So I'd love anything like that to happen, and that's why we get out and talk about it as much as we can.
Really nice. That's good. That's good. Okay. I think we've talked a lot. I have talked a lot. Though I still have a few things I still want to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
But just a quick one. It's a quick overview of the tokenomics and buy and sell taxes, total supply, before we could get some few community questions.
Yeah, sure. I mean, tokenomics is super simple. There's no unvested tokens or anything like that. These supply is 7 billion. All the tokens are out there. The only thing that might be a little confusing to people is Saito is its own network. We have ERC and BEP20 tokens that can be moved onto Saito's mainnet. And that's to make purchasing Saito simpler, like to make the infrastructure, etc., simpler for people. So tokenomics is really, really simple. We're not adding supply. What's there is there. If you buy the token, you're not going to get diluted or anything like that. The project does hold some tokens, which are there for the ability to stimulate the network and help build the ecosystem out. But we're not dumping tokens in or selling them every week or anything like that. There's no crazy unlocks or anything. Wiki.saito.io/tokenomics will give you details on everything in sort of much better detail and with numbers and all of that sort of stuff.
Amazing. All right. If you are cool, we could get some few community questions. Community, if you have any questions you would love to ask. I know a couple of you actually sent me your questions already on DMs, which I am already going through. But if you would love to come up on the mic and ask your question, that would be really nice. Miluna actually sent a question in. Let me see. Okay, so she was asking, how does Saito handle how does Saito handle smart contract execution compared to EVM based blockchains? I think we kind of touched on that.
Well, it's quite simple. Saito itself, for scaling reasons, doesn't deploy an EVM. EVMs are really good for DeFi type stuff. They have a purpose in the world, but it's also really limited. If you wanted to try and build a simple app like a game of chess or something on an EVM machine, it's incredibly expensive. Every machine, every validator out there has to run all this code every time a block is created. It's just impossible. So to do what we're doing on Saito, we don't deploy an EVM. Applications can simply write instructions to each other on the chain. What's cool is just the other day we released a module that shows how to use zero-knowledge technology, zero-knowledge proofs on Saito. And in that is also the ability to basically make an EVM as an app. So if you want to do EVM type work on Saito, what you can do is deploy an app that runs an EVM. That's it. That's all you need to do. And that is actually a sidechain now. It's a layer 2. So it's very easy to build an EVM layer 2 on top of Saito. And then the cool thing is it's only going to be running the EVM code on the nodes that are running the app. And so you can decide on how many people that is and how big you want this validator set to be, etc. And it's a very quick and simple way of deploying a layer 2 chain. But yes, Saito itself doesn't run an EVM because it simply can't to handle the volume and speed of traffic we plan on handling.
Thank you for your question, Luna. Andrew Morris actually came in with one, and he was asking what are the potential challenges that could arise in integrating existing DApps with Saito's infrastructures.
So I think the issue is really that the existing DApps are tiny. They really don't do anything. If you come and have a look at Saito's apps like Video Call, right, it's not really competing with the apps. The apps do tiny little things like they let you send money or vote on something, or they're very restricted. The kind of block Web3 gaming, if you look at it classically, is very, very light, right? It's basically just pressing a few buttons. If you come and look at the games on Saito, they're incredibly rich, incredibly complicated. You can be as big and as interesting as you want. So again, with Saito, if you want to take a classic DApp and run it on against the Saito layer 2 EVM chain, you could. But we really think, again, like I said at the start, the analogy of the iPhone, we don't think people will want to waste their time copying the bank app. They're going to be writing every other kind of app, all sorts of cool things. And yet you can write a bank app, but it's not the only thing Saito can do by a long way. And again, it's things like Video Call and social platforms show just how different Saito is.
Thank you very much. Primate also came in with one, and he was asking, aside from the common programming language that you provide, which is Python, PN, CSS, and the likes, what kind of debugging tools and developer resources does Saito provide?
Okay, so this is somewhere we're not as rich as we'd like to be. Basically, the Saito core software, we've got a WASM package, so you can include that WebAssembly in just about anything you're writing. After that, it's general software development. So we'd like to have more tutorials and things like that. We do have some, and they're decent on Saito, wiki.saito.io. But that's something that we're working on all the time and improving all the time. But basically, the cool thing is, the flip side of everything I've said is, when you develop on Saito, basic standard application or web development, it's not like Solidity development where you've got this specific special language just for doing these things, and it's very particular and it's basically bytecode. When you're writing an application on Saito, you're just writing an application. You can use whatever standard or fancy debugging tools you want to use from your regular workflow.
Very nice. Okay, we'll take one more question before we call it off a day. I'm just going through the questions. Okay. This one is really, really interesting. Okay, so ES network is actually asking if could, okay, let me just read it according to the way he wrote it. He said, could Saito's open network model potentially replace traditional cloud hosting solutions for web applications?
Oh, absolutely. That's the entire point. So great question. Yeah, the entire point is to do that and to do it in a specific way where it's peer-to-peer instead of cloud provider and lowly human using their systems. So if you want to build an archive node inside it, you want to store data for people, the way it works, you can't tell what they're putting on your system. You can't read it. You can't spy on it. But also you can't tell if they're backing it up, moving it to another provider, or just reading it. So there's no way for an archive service provider to lock you in like current cloud providers are. It'd be super simple if you want to move to use somebody else archiving your stuff online to just use their app, extract your data, keep going. So it creates a great place for competition, but also privacy and security, and it puts the power in the user's hand. So very much, the objective here is to create a platform that lets people build their own software, or lets a variety of people build software that interoperates and is open and free for users to do what they want with. And we've really very much got cloud providers in our sights with what we're doing.
That's really nice, really, really amazing. It's been really, really amazing so far listening to you talk about Saito, and I really, really did appreciate you coming in today on the mic to talk. I don't know how much time you still have. Maybe we could get one more question if you're open for
Yeah, I
it.
think we can knock out one or two more questions. I've got time. I think I've got until the hour, so probably another 10 minutes.
Okay. Joella, how you doing? I hope you had a wonderful night where you're tuning in from.
Hello, how you doing?
Hey, Joella.
It's good to have you on the.
Yeah, thank you so much for always giving me the opportunity to ask. Can you guys hear me?
I can now.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much. My question is about the red square feature you have, whereby is a peer-to-peer where people can post and share with their peers. So my question about that is, I want to know if there's going to be a form of followership aspect to this particular feature, just like we have on the X and TikTok, whereby people can follow a content creator or something like that. So I just wanted to know, and is there any incentive that will be associated to the use of the Red Square?
Right. So a couple of things there. There's actually already a following feature. Basically, you can follow a public key, like an address. Each person has one, but you can also make a group or a topic that has an address, and so you can follow those things. So that's already implemented. You can go into your profile and see content about what you're following. The question about incentives is a really interesting one. We haven't built that in, again, because we want things to be as easy to use and as simple to gain usership and to show how things can be done. But if someone wanted to build a Red Square client where you can tip for content, you can even subscribe to content, so you only get some content. A user can say, well, I will have a paid content stream and people have to pay to unencrypt it. Yep, absolutely possible, definitely doable. And it's something we've put a lot of thought into, making sure that the model allows for all those kinds of things. What we'll probably do soon is just third-party crypto, so other applications support using eGold or Ethereum or whatever else you want to use in the application. So we'll probably add tipping at some point in our application just to show people how you can do that to create a kind of reward system.
Yeah, I think the tipping aspect will be good for the Red Square. And so my next question, I'm going to make it quick. It's just about I saw on the website that you guys will be having a multi-wallet that you guys, yeah. So during the course of the presentation, you didn't go into that, maybe because of the time. So is there
Yeah.
any interesting features you'll be having on the wallet that is going to attract more users to it?
I think the main thing is, yeah, so the way we can do that is because Saito doesn't have these restrictions, because we've solved these underlying questions of how do you make a high capacity blockchain, we can actually basically send and receive transactions for within Saito transactions. That creates a whole world of interesting things. So right now, you can come along. I'll use eGold as the example anymore because we've been collaborating with them a lot recently. You can come and put, an eGold wager on a game. So you can bet your friends one eGold that you'll beat them at poker or chess or something. And that just demonstrates how that works. You could do the same thing with tipping, like we were saying, where you could tip in Ethereum or Solana or a random coin if you wanted to. So the wallet is really just a way of seeing what your balances are for those things. But the software infrastructure supports multiple currencies and doing all sorts of things with those. So some people might build applications to, say, trade between two of those currencies. Other people might build NFT galleries. Other people might build, something like a paid social, or, even you could build a learning center where people pay for lessons. Teachers, and get paid directly by the students. There's thousands of models there because, again, we're not really the software platform developer. We're developing the underlying network that can do all of these amazing things. So yeah, you're right. The reason I didn't get into that is just time, because there's so many features I could talk about.
Yeah, a lot of features you have. I wish you guys the best. Thank you so much for answering
Thank
my
you.
question. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your questions. It's were really, really amazing as always. And thank you, Richard, for taking your time to come in here to talk to us about Saito. It is really, really amazing. We really, really enjoyed having you over, and it was really, really lovely. If there are any final words I want to give to the community before we drop out, it would be really, really lovely.
Cool. I mean, the big thing for me is do have get to know the project roadmap and stuff. We've got some massively exciting things coming up in the next few months. And one of the best ways to find things out, ask questions, get involved, is just come to saito.io/Red Square. And there you can interact with the community directly, post a question, read up on what's going on, and, just get a sense of what's going on. It's a very open, very friendly project. Lots of cool people involved. So yeah, that's my big call out is thanks for tuning in and listening to what I have to say today. And if you want to get to know more or be part of things, saito.io, Red Square, and come and say hello.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, and have a wonderful day wherever you're tuning in from. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Saito.